Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Till Mets Do Us Part, live on YouTube, live on Twitter, just like we are each and every single week. John Sapanaro out in Los Angeles, California. Don't let the attire fool you. I am still in Southern California. It's just been weirdly cold and rainy, although not today. It is a beautiful day out, a little bit windy, hence the hoodie and the beanie. But anyway, holding it down back east in New Jersey is my co-host, Matt Ibby Ibanez. Ibby, we have a lot of stuff to get into. All of a sudden, over the last, 12 to 18 hours, the Mets have been fairly busy in a couple different regards. But before we talk about any of that, how you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good, John. Another day, another time we get to talk about our beloved New York Mets. I love Wednesdays. We get to hit record and we just get to go. I see the chat's already starting up, which is great to see. You know, there's a lot going on with our Mets. I guess I could say a lot, but you would think that a meteor was coming to hit Earth the way people are reacting because of a fourth outfielder. And I will talk about it throughout the show. But the fact that people are losing their minds because they didn't go out and get Mike Trout is ridiculous to me. And yeah, what up, fam? That's what I want. He's part of our family now. That's it. Our family. A little run on words. Hopefully you guys like that one. But yeah, I'm excited. Let's talk about everything that we got to talk about. And hopefully, those that are listening, whether live or later on, can relax a little bit and just know that it's a fourth outfielder. There's still a little more work to do in terms of the pen, maybe. We'll talk about all of it. You're good, Mets fans. Therapy's in session.
Absolutely. And of course, the comments are already active. Apologize to everybody. My fault once again. We're about 30 minutes late. I just had some things I had to do. Life gets in the way, but we are here. Comments are rocking. Want to shout out everybody who's saying hello. Patty in NYC. We got James Dowling.
JD.
As we scroll further down, we've got Carlos Ortiz. We've got Shay. We've got Baseball and BBQ. We've got Rael saying 203, which is a testament to our subscriber number. We're over 200. Thanks for that. Carlos Ramos, what's up, guys? How's it going? Yeah, so I think we got into everybody. Keep those comments coming in. Of course, hit that like button. Stevie Mac's not here to say it right now.
Yes,
I don't think
hit the like.
Hit the like button, and we'll get into it. Look, I wasn't sure that's where we were going to start, but it is one of the questions we got asked right off the rip. So quite simply, what do you think of the Pham signing? Ibby, you go first. What do you think? Tommy Pham, 1 year, $6 million to be the Mets' fourth outfielder. And I would imagine sometimes DH against left-handed pitching as it stands right now.
I have no problem with this at all. I mean, we've been talking about potential pieces. We never really mentioned Pham as one of our, I guess, I don't want to call it favorited ones, but he wasn't someone that was on our list in terms of who we wanted. But I understand why they did it because, again, this is the hard thing for Mets fans right now. They think everything just comes down to money. Look, I know that Andrew McCutchen signed for $7 million, whatever it was. I know that Adam Duvall signed for $7 million that can get to 10. I know Trey Mancini signed a deal that gives him potentially 2 years of 14 or whatever. It's like, you got to understand something. Money might be low on these guys, but McCutchen's case, think of it as a go-home legacy tour. For the others, they wanted to be starters. That's what this came down to. If you're going to offer someone similar money, I don't care what reports say when it comes to the Mets being aggressive to someone. If you're going to offer money, great. But if the other team's going to offer similar money on top of being a starter, they're going to go there. Any baseball player would go to the place where they gives them the most opportunity to play every day, regardless of age. That's where they're going to go. So
it's like the J.R. Smith quote from a couple of years ago, right? Shooters shoot, right? Players play. That's what they do.
That's it. So it's just like, I don't understand why we're losing our minds because, look, I've been saying, you've been saying, Adam Duvall made a lot of sense here. But the Red Sox offered what they did, and they said, oh, yeah, by the way, you're probably going to be our everyday center fielder. Okay, I'm going to go there instead of being a fourth outfielder for the Mets. Even though the Mets are more equipped to win, I'm going to get more playing time so that maybe I can reestablish my value and get another contract potentially after this one because I have an opt-out. There are ways to look about this in a normal, constructive way, but people are refusing to do it because it's not the name that they wanted. When it comes to Tommy Pham himself, I'll save stats for a little bit later, but when it comes to Tommy Pham himself, it makes sense. Fourth outfielder, has some pop because everyone's screaming about power, has a little bit of pop. Does well against lefties, like you said. I'll break down those numbers after you give your piece on Pham. But yeah, in terms of the player himself, just don't start a fantasy football league with him. That's the only thing you have to worry about. Other than that, I think it's fine.
I would agree. And, James Dowling saying some fans need deeper therapy over this Pham signing. It seems.
It's unbelievable.
And look, baseball and BBQ, though, that's fair. Tommy Pham, meh. I get it. But fourth outfielders are going to be meh. You know what I mean? Like, some of these other guys have name value and some of these other guys have higher upside, but to me, they're all the same guy. And I don't want to disparage the career of Andrew McCutchen. He won an MVP. He was a great ball player in his prime, right? Like you said, he's getting to go home. So it's a little different for a guy like McCutchen. Trey Mancini maybe has a higher upside at this point in his career than Tommy Pham. I think Adam Duvall has a higher upside, but today, 2023, January 18th, they're all basically different combinations of the same guy who do certain things well, certain things not as well. I like Tommy Pham as a ball player. I don't think he should be a starter, but he's not going to be one. I think Tommy Pham can get, I don't know, let's say 350 at bats, somewhere in that range, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, playing some left field, playing some right field, maybe in an absolute pinch, playing some center field and getting some reps at DH. I think he'll be fine. I think he hits lefties, which is what the Mets needed. I think it gives the Mets an opportunity to get out from under Darren Ruff now. I think the Mets were waiting to bring in somebody who could fill that void, and I think Tommy Pham is the guy, at least in the short term. So I don't think this is something to get up in arms over. Look, I like Adam Duvall, but if you look at a guy like Duvall, who has never been a superstar, but has had these weirdly standout years, then he has the year that he had last year where he was hurt and he underachieved. It's no wonder he's going to go to a place where he can play center field every day and get the opportunity to hit in a place like Boston. He's going to hit in Fenway. Now, if Adam Duvall on a 1 year, what was it, $7 million deal or whatever the number is, but let's say 1 year, $10 million if there's incentives or whatever. 1 year, $10 million deal with Boston. If he's healthy and he hits 38 home runs again, 35 home runs, and plays center field for most of the year, Adam Duvall might set himself up to get the best contract he is ever going to get in his baseball career. He might get a 3-4 year deal where he's making, in the tens of millions of dollars. So for him, it's a no-brainer to go there. For Trey Mancini, he got 2 years elsewhere. The Mets were aggressive, but who knows if they offered him 2 years? They probably didn't, because the Mets have not shown a willingness to go 2 years on these spare part pieces. The Mets are going multiple years on players that are part of their fabric. Even guys like Canna and Escobar, they gave those guys 2 years because they forecast both of them as starters. Trey Mancini is going to be a backup on this team. A good backup, I thought. I said last week, go get Duvall and Mancini. And I would have been happy as a pig in shit. I would have been good to go. But they didn't do it. So I'm not mad. I do understand a little bit, to combine last week with this week. I do understand a little bit of the letdown. Whereas, you go back to last week on Tuesday and Monday, everybody thought we were going to sign Carlos Correa, and you fast forward a week and we have Tommy Pham instead. No Correa, Tommy Pham. Yeah, that's a bummer. That's a letdown. That's natural. But you can't look at them like Tommy Pham is not brought here to be the replacement for Carlos Correa. No, Tommy Pham was brought here to be the fourth outfielder, and the Mets were probably going to bring him in even if they got Correa. They were just so bogged down with Correa that they couldn't do anything else because they had lawyers and everybody in the front office pulling all in the same direction to try to get the Correa stuff done. And now there's rumors that the Mets are maybe active in the trade market. They've been looking around, at least talking. Who knows for who knows for what, whatever. But, Ibby, you can't live and die. We're all diehard fans, and we do live and die by what our team does. But you can't live and die by every little pendulum swing. We talked about it during the season last year. The Mets lose a game or two and you're like, oh my God, you can't do that. And so a signing like this for Tommy Pham, you can't, because what happens if tomorrow the Mets trade for, it's not going to happen. I'm just going to throw a name out there. What happens if the Mets traded for Jose Ramirez tomorrow? Now, all of a sudden, no one's going to give a shit about Tommy Pham being the fourth outfielder. They're going to go, oh, wow, we got a third baseman. Now who knows what we're doing with Beatty? We're moving stuff around. It's all good. We're good. So just relax a little bit. Just exhale. It's fine.
Yeah. And just again, like I said, I was going to bring up the numbers for Pham just to get an idea. Last year against lefties, which again, which we're assuming he's going to get the majority of his work in, is against lefties. And actually, I'll save that point for a second. His slash line stuff was 273, 338, 446 against lefties. His career is 276, 392, 450. So almost in line, minus the OBP a little bit there. In comparison, shout out as always to Matthew Brownstein for putting this one out there. Pham versus Ruff to get an idea. Pham against lefties, like I just said, a 784 OPS with a 115 weighted runs created plus. Whereas Darren Ruff, as a Met, I will preface it with that, as a Met, his job was to come here and hit lefties, right? As a Met, he had 51 plate appearances, a 428 OPS, and a 28 weighted runs created plus. 28. All right. The average is 100. He was 28. Okay. When it comes to weighted runs created plus, as an average baseball player.
Is this like a different metric for Darren Ruff? Like, are you comparing like American dollars to the yen, or are we dealing in the same currency where he was that bad?
He was that bad against lefties. Now, to put it a little bit of context to show how bad he was on the year against lefties, because he did well. That's why they traded for him from San Francisco. He had a 753 OPS against lefties with a 116 weighted runs created plus. So that shows you just how bad he was when he came here. Now, there's no guarantee that Darren Ruff is going to be here. I know everyone, freaking Frank the Tank and biting your shirt and all this nonsense when it comes to Darren Ruff.
I'm so over that guy.
Of course we are. Everybody is. Nobody likes him. But the point is, Darren Ruff's going to get the invite. He's going to be there at camp because half of our team is in the World Baseball Classic. Okay. Mm-hmm. So he's going to get some looks. So you're going to see, does this guy offer us anything at all? And if he shows out in the spring, maybe he finds his way back onto the bench potentially. But he's going to have to really show out. Otherwise, it's very easy to cut bait, especially if they go out and got something else. The bench is now getting a little bit crowded. Someone's going to have to go. So there's no guarantee that Darren Ruff's going to be here, but that's just giving you a little of a breakdown in terms of what Tommy Pham brings to you in terms of the lefty-righty splits. And the one thing I cannot stand is the fact that people are now upset over the fact that others are using that as a metric for a player. It's like, oh, I'm sick and tired of these lefty-righty splits. Like, look at the guy's overall numbers. He stinks. But it's like, well, wait a second. If he's brought here to do something and he does something well, that's why you employ a person, because you want to do well against that given whatever is coming at you, left,
whatever the situation might be.
Whatever the situation is. So yes, I'm going to employ someone like that. And yes, it failed with Darren Ruff based off the numbers I just said to you. So are you just going to sit on your hands and not attack someone that can go against lefties? No, I'm going to go get someone else, see if it can work. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, you try against somewhere else. Like, you're just going to constantly keep everything, and we don't have to worry about that.
I think that's the frustrating part for me, is that people will use that metric and talk out of both sides of their mouth, right? Like, it wasn't enough. It wasn't, everybody's saying it's not enough what Vogelback gave the Mets, despite the fact that apart from the hamstring injury, he gave them exactly what they traded for, which was a guy who hits fastballs, hits the ball hard, hits right-handed pitching. He did that the whole time. He did that the entire time that he was here. They went out and got Darren Ruff because J.D. Davis never did all of that from the right-hand side of the plate. And they went and got a guy with the proven track record of doing it. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out. But like you said, you don't just not address that now. You have to go and fix the situation. You have to go and address it in a different way and get creative. And, credit to Ryan Finkelstein for putting this out there earlier today. I don't have the tweet in front of me, but he was basically like, he was like ducks, it was one of those things like, oh, I'm ducking. And then he was like, if the Mets didn't acquire Darren Ruff at the trade deadline, he would be the exact kind of player the Mets should get right now. His career profile is the kind of player that the Mets should go get. Obviously, everybody is sour on him, rightfully so. He came here and he played like somebody who has never played professional baseball before. But that doesn't mean guys like Frank the Tank are going to bite their shirt and be miserable pricks about it, know anything about ball. Darren Ruff is a mediocre Major League Baseball player who's supposed to do one thing well. The fact that he doesn't make a lot of money and he is cost controlled and he is under team control and all of that stuff, there's no reason to cut bait with him right now. Now, if they can find a trade partner and they can get a spare part, do it. If not, to your point, Ibby, half the teams going to the World Baseball Classic. See if this guy can adjust. He probably can, because Darren Ruff, as bad as he was last year, is not that bad at that. Darren Ruff is not what he showed last year. You don't hit lefties your entire career and then just lose it. You don't. I'm sorry. You don't. You lose that ability. He's not that old. He's not 40. You know what I mean? Like, it's fine. Like, I think he can probably rebound. Do I want him on the team? Not particularly. But if he hits in spring training, would I take him back? Sure. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, I think something like this, he's going to get a look, unless something bearing another big move, or another piece coming in. He's going to get looks, and I think being away from the game of baseball after just going through something when you're acquired, and at the time you're considered the only, like, he was put in a spot where he was the bat that they got, and he just couldn't get out of his own way. And when you throw New York on top of that, and the expectations and the team in general of what they were and what happened in September, like, all of that compounded together just turns into a nightmare for him. And the guy couldn't get out of his own way. Sometimes when you don't have it, you can't get up. Sometimes you get knocked down so much you just can't get back up. So I think being away, coming back, and if he does well in the spring, the guy's going to earn himself. He's going to have to earn himself back onto this team. Otherwise, he will be gone. And that's whether another piece comes in or they choose to keep some of the kids up as opposed to putting them at AAA. I think they're more likely going to be at AAA. We can talk about that a little bit later as well. But I think he's going to get an opportunity. I know people aren't going to want to hear that, but it's the truth. And I don't mind him getting the shot, but you have to earn it. It's not given just because you were traded for 4 pieces. That's not the way it is.
And everybody should earn it. We'll talk more about that coming up in a second. I'll jump back into the comments. Got a lot of coming in. Keep them coming. Hit that like button.
Hit the like.
Ibby mentioned something last week that I thought was strange. 70% of the people who watch our show are not subscribed to our channel. So if you're watching right now and you like it, give us a thumbs up, but hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed already. If you are, thank you so much. We've got the Ram finally caught some of the live stream. Let the therapy begin. Welcome.
Love it. Welcome,
we got a lot of people coming in with some really great comments on Tommy Pham. This one from Barman Zandiego, which was so difficult to say. His numbers in the postseason are great, which is a fair point. Also following it up by saying his stats against the NL East are also good, which is entirely fair. And then we've got Stevie Mack saying it. Hit that like button. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Stevie.
Dookie Hauser saying, not a bad deal, but I wanted them to get Duvall, more power, good glove. I agree with that. But,
well, you got a starting job. That's the whole thing. You got a starting job.
Exactly. Patty NYC just kind of agreeing with our entire, overall viewpoint, and that it's apples to oranges with regards to this is not Tommy Pham instead of Carlos Correa. This is Tommy Pham because it's a guy we needed. That's it. Right. Like, you got to look at it in a vacuum, even though most times things don't exist in a vacuum. Barman also saying we need Chafin now. A few calls for Chafin. I think we'll get into that coming up next. Look, a lot of people are worried. James Dowling and a couple of other people have mentioned this. Clubhouse guy. As a clubhouse guy, I'm sure the team puts him in his place with regards to Tommy Pham. I know sometimes he's got a bit of an attitude, and he's had some of those issues with other teammates, the fantasy football stuff, well documented with, I think it was Jock Peterson, right?
It was Jock Peterson. Yeah, that was the whole thing. And just something to throw out there real quick. I know everyone, look, he's here as a 4th outfielder, and this isn't a slight at our own team as well, but it's like they're complaining about power so much, right? Everyone's bitching and moaning about power. Oh, I wanted this player. I wanted that player. And you don't get them. They go off the board. They go somewhere else because they're getting a starting job. Well, if we're going to say something here, it's Tommy Pham had 17 home runs last year. That would have led our outfield at 17 homers. Nimmo had 16. Marte had 16. And I think Canada had a little bit less than that.
Like 12 or something like that.
The guy had, if we're going to look at it that way, the guy had 17. He would have led our outfielders in terms of home runs. He's not going to be out there every day. They're going to pick and choose his spots. We know this team likes their flexibility. They like moving people around. There's no reason to get up in arms over this. This isn't the end of the world. This isn't make or break. Like, I don't understand why everyone thinks that whoever it was that was going to get signed, whether it was a player you liked or disliked, why you thought it was going to transform this team. It was never going to happen. So why are we thinking even the players that we liked and championed for, even if it was, I mentioned Andrew McCutcheon, we've mentioned Adam Duvall, we mentioned Trey Mancini, like all these guys, they weren't changing this team. No. So when people bitch and moan about, the identity of the office this offseason, hasn't changed from last year, so it's going to be this huge failure. It's like, well, I'm sorry, then you clearly didn't like this offseason from the jump, right? Because a majority of the stuff was done. The Correa stuff came out of left field because it was something that was done on a whim because the market was crashing, so they tried to take advantage, and it didn't work. Other than that, you're basically saying you did not like this offseason because before the Correa stuff, we were already talking about filling in these loose ends and rounding out the roster because that's where it was going to go. So clearly you did not like this offseason from the jump. Otherwise, stop your bitching.
And why? Stephanie puts it great because most Met fans are drama. That is so spot on true.
Preach.
A baseball media who I think is a new viewer for us in real time, just saying LGM. So welcome. Appreciate that.
Man. Appreciate it.
Barman San Diego, guys, please remember to like the stream and support the podcast. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I do agree with this. Everybody seems to be in agreement with us. We're not getting a lot of pushback here where cooler heads are prevailing. Thankfully, everybody in the stream seems to be, on the same point as, Stephanie saying, I wanted Duvall too. There's a lot of that. We all did, but it is what it is. And Ibby, to your point, I don't think any of these guys were going to, I thought Duvall had the highest upside, right? Because I thought if an outfielder goes down, Duvall can play every day and give you the highest home run potential, give you the best glove of all of the options that are available to play in the outfield every day, right? So I thought his upside was the highest. But to me, as part-time players, the way everything is currently constituted, I'll say it again, they're all kind of the same guy. You mentioned Tommy Pham's 17 home runs would have led the outfield. Yep. Okay, so let Tommy Pham come here and hit 17 home runs. Good. I'm good with that. Let's transition the conversation a little bit. Seems like the Mets are in the relief market. There are 3 relievers of note that are still available. One, we've talked about a million times. He's always connected to the Mets. Andrew Chafin. For me, he's the best option available. Ibby, after that, the second best option for me, it's because I like 2 lefties. This is more of a swing because it's a high risk, high reward kind of thing because of health is Zach Britton, somebody who's pitched in New York, had success here, somebody who's had success with Buck, somebody who's been a closer. I like a lot of things that he brings to the table. If he's healthy, he would be my choice 2. And then my choice kind of 2B or number 3, however you want to rank him, is Michael Fulmer, former Mets prospect, obviously traded the deal for Yoenis Cespedes. It'd be nice to bring him home. He's made himself into a good reliever. So, there's a lot of stuff there, but what's your thoughts there?
I have been saying for the longest time that if this team, and when the offseason really started, when we said that if this team wasn't going to attack power, if they weren't going to get the likes, and we both agreed, when it came to power, if you're not getting Aaron Judge, okay, you're not truly going to be getting any legit oomph in this lineup, okay, because that was the one guy in the market that provided it. So when you choose not to go that route, I had been saying that I think this team is going to double down on their pitching, which they have, on the starters. And I said they're really going to rework this bullpen and make it a legit strength. And to this point, they've done that. So when I see them get a Tommy Pham, and then right after that, you're seeing reports, well, the market for Chafin's heating up and the Mets are in on it. I was like, this makes a lot of sense to me because you're going to have to back up the older starters. You don't want to run them dry in the early months of the season. It's a slog. It's a long season. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You want to make sure you're taking care of those guys. You fill up this pen. So I think Chafin, we've both been saying, we didn't know what was going on with him. Okay. It was very quiet. He makes a lot of sense. I would welcome him with open arms. I love the mustache. I think he looks awesome. I think he would be great here. But I'm with you also. I think as much as I want Chafin to be here, I kind of think it's going to be Britton because he is like that high level left. Like we've talked about taking risks on players before, but like that's one where it's like, man, if this guy's right,
Mhm.
this bullpen is legit. Like
If
legit,
Britton is
legit. If
healthy,
he's
and
right, like
Chafin has
he's
been
that good.
excellent. Chafin's been great, but if Britton is healthy, Britton's better. I mean, he's had a better career. He's been a closer. I know he's a little bit older, but like to your point, if Britton's healthy, he's the better option. I mean, I know that's a big if, right? The
No,
best
it is. It is a
ability
big
is
if.
availability, but still.
Right. And I think that's I kind of feel like it's gonna end up being Britton, not even because of the Buck connection, but that's just me going off of gut. But I'm happy that they're definitely in the market with those guys, and I'm with you also. I think Fulmer's the other one, and I love seeing full circle things like he leaves in the Cespedes deal. They go on the run in 15, it falls short. We're trying to compete for a World Series yet again, and him coming back and him potentially being a part of that would be kind of cool. But it would also be kind of cool for Buck to get redemption and putting Zach Britton in a big spot, and then him getting the outs that are needed. So that would be a cool story as well. So I'm all about cool stories and that stuff. But yeah, I'm with you. I think that they're going to get one more piece in that pen. Which one of those three? It's up for debate. But I do think if I had to choose, I would choose Chafin. I think I would choose him. But I feel like it's going to be Britton.
That's fair. I think I align the same way. Like I said, I want Britton. I think Britton's better than Chafin if he's healthy, but the asterisk of if he's healthy is a big one. So for me, that's what knocks him down. But I like two lefties in the pen. We haven't had two lefties in the pen, which a lot of people are alluding to in the comments. I think the Rams said it. Yeah. I honestly can't remember the last time the Mets had a bullpen with two lefties. I'm here for it, which is absolutely true. Ida C, who I think is also a new commenter, welcome to the chat. At Ram, I was thinking the same thing. Two lefties are always better than one. Have two lefties.
Have two lefties.
And now you need a lefty that can get righties out. And I think all of the guys that we're talking about, whether you're talking about Rayleigh and the addition of a guy like Chafin or Britton, they're all guys who can get lefties and righties out. Jump back into the comments here in full force in a second. Stevie Mack with a good comment. I wanted Benintendi to go even more with contact hitting. The Mets were on fire in that way in the first half, getting a ton of basic hits. Plus, the shift is gone on top of it now. I think early on in free agency, Ibby, even when they brought back Nimmo, I thought the idea of Benintendi making kind of Canna the fourth outfielder / right-handed DH would have been a decent option, but I think the Mets wanted to go for more power. And once they brought back Nimmo, I think they kind of saw those guys as, Benintendi is sort of in a way a poor man's Brandon Nimmo. So I think that was where that thought process zigged when everybody else zagged. Shay saying this is not the Wilpon era. We have 1 to 2 years of a window and we'll fade 8 years after. We're going for sustained success and multiple championships with Cohen. Now that's a lot. That's rhetoric that we've put out there. Look, when you haven't won in 36 years, okay, that's not a thing that people want to hear, right? You want to win now, win the first one, and then we'll talk about it. But at the same time, Shay's 100% right. Because we had boom and bust cycles of success, more bust than boom under the Wilpons, basically for their entire ownership, especially after Doubleday was bought out. So, instead of just going for the quick instant gratification, the Mets are doing both simultaneously. They're giving you all the instant gratification you want, spending $370 million on payroll, saying, fuck it, we'll buy whoever, we'll do whatever we need. You want to buy a championship? Let's buy 2 championships. Who gives a shit? Well, at the same time, we're going to hold on to as many prospects as we can and build for the future. That's why it's so unfathomable to me, Ibby, where anybody could complain at all. Obviously, we're all baseball fans. You want Carlos Correa. You want the guy that you want, right? You want to build the team the way you think it makes sense. You want to have all the flashy pieces. But if you look at this Mets team and you don't see how it's different, I don't understand. Like, yeah, nobody wanted Correa more than me, I think, right? We talked about it. I said get Correa instead of Nimmo.
Yes.
Before they brought Nimmo back. Yes. So, but I'm sitting here going, I'm good. You got me Senga, Verlander, Quintana. You got me Brendan Nimmo back. You got me Diaz. You're bringing in Pham. You brought back Ottavino. You went and got Brooks Raley. You brought Narvaez. Like, you can't be upset. You can't be.
But the fact that Jack Ramsey on Twitter brought this one up. The fact that people are trying to put out there that the Mets are showing as if they're not willing to be aggressive because they're holding on to certain players is ridiculous because of everything you just said. They've gone out and they've gotten players. They've gone out and they've made deals too. Look, we know like this is where people are missing the point and bringing it back to Darren Ruff and the trade deadline, which I'm sick and tired of talking about, but it needs to be said. People are pissed off about what the outcome was with Darren Ruff, right? I read the numbers before. Terrible. He was brought here to do a job similar to JD Davis. When he was here, you have a job. You have one job. Do your job. Can't do it. Adios. Okay. They bring in Ruff. It doesn't work. Okay. But the point is, the Mets were willing, whether people liked it or not, they were willing to spend. And at that point, for Darren Ruff, of all players, overspend to get a piece that they thought was going to help them. They gave up 4 people. I don't care what anyone says. Nobody cared about those 4 pieces. Okay. They gave up the 4 pieces and it didn't work. But the move failed. But the point of it is they were willing to give up multiple players for one player, which they thought was going to help them. It didn't work out. It doesn't always work out. Okay. Sometimes you fail, you go, but you get back on your horse, you do it again. Okay. But the point is, this team and this front office has shown you every step of the way so far that they are willing to go through every avenue to try and get better. Have they failed at some instances? Yes, but that doesn't mean that they're not working to get better. And this offseason, they've been busting their ass to put the team back together that they had, because I'm sorry, I refuse to think like everyone else and, just freaking sneeze at a 101 win team. Yes, I know there's going to be some regression. I get that. But this team can still be a goddamn good team and win 93 games.
And that's the point that I've had up on the board from James Dowling. Mets fans love the analytics team is growing, but then they bash them when they use analytics on players. A la Tommy Pham, a la Darren Ruff, a la all of the acquisitions that they're making. Even Brooks Raley can fit into that category. And it's just, you just have to take it all in perspective. We saw some great chat coming in from Mets Talk with Hayden, which, by the way, welcome. Finally catching us live. I understand everyone's concerned with this team since the Correa deal went to smoke. I can sit here and say how this team won 101 games with the same lineup practically and understand what happened, continued in the playoffs. I'm hoping that the Mets can continue to ride out their agenda and always tackle something at the deadline and pray the 3 big prospects can create an impact. That's what you're doing. What Mets fans need to realize now is that everything matters, but also you have to temper the expectations, right? And what I'm trying to say is that when a team like the Mets goes out and wins 101 games last year, you can't throw that away, but you also can't put all the stake in the world in that. It's impressive and important that they won 101 games, but yes, they did fizzle out in the playoffs. This coming year, they would like to win 100 games again. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Maybe they'll win 90 games and win the division, and maybe they'll still lose in the first round. Maybe they'll win 88 games as a hard luck wild card and win the World Series. It doesn't matter. None of it matters, because all you can do is put yourself in the position to build as good of a baseball team as you possibly can with the resources that you have. And anybody who has looked at this since Steve Cohen took over and says that he doesn't do that is watching the wrong thing, or is lying to themselves, or needs to go root for a different team. Because every time the opportunity presents itself, Steve Cohen puts the best team on the field with whatever resources he has, whether that's trades, usually not too much because the Mets are trying to also bolster their farm system, or if it's money, certainly he is spending it. And to your point, before we head into break, and I'll give you the final thought on this in a second, I said it last week. I will say it again. I will say it till I'm blue in the face. The Mets have a mid-tier farm system. 12 to 15, depending on the ranking. Some people like Keith Law. Some people like MLB.com, MLB Pipeline. Joe DeMayo does a great job ranking prospects. He does it, I think, better than most people, right? But obviously, he's going to be a little bit more Mets-centric, so you take that into account. But anyway, whatever the metric is, there's somewhere in the middle of the road. You don't want to trade pieces, valuable pieces, when you might be able to get Shohei Ohtani in July. And this is not saying that you're just going to sit on your hands and do nothing until then, but you can't afford it. What the biggest issue with the Jared Kelenic deal or the Pete Crow Armstrong deal or whatever is that they gave up the player in the certain deal, not that they gave up that player, period.
Right.
Now, it doesn't matter what Jared Kelenic becomes. He hasn't done anything. He could also, this year and beyond, become Mike Trout. It doesn't matter. It matters that the Mets gave up a top prospect in a deal where they already took on $48 million of Cano's money. That was the problem. The problem was they gave up a guy like Pete Crow Armstrong, and I didn't really care that much because I thought he's coming off of a major knee injury, and you don't really know. But they gave him up to rent a player. It's the thought process of who you're giving up in what deal. I'll give up anybody if you tell me the Mets are going to trade for Ohtani and then sign him. Sure. We had this we had this conversation, you and I, about Juan Soto. I said, Juan Soto's available, trade anybody. Alvarez, sure.
Oh, take everybody.
Care. Trade Alvarez, trade Beatty, trade Alex Ramirez, trade Mark Vientos, trade all of them. Because you know what Juan Soto is? Ted Williams. You know who I hope any of those guys are? Half as good.
Yeah.
Trade them all.
Yeah.
For the right piece at the right time.
Yes. And I mean, you did, like, just saying the things that you just said, you kind of trigger something in my mind that I want to say about the whole Jared Kelenic thing, but it's tabled stuff, and I don't want to make people upset because I'm going to talk about Edwin Diaz in a certain way, but that doesn't matter. Point is, the team is willing to give up pieces if it makes sense. They want to build everything. This is a process. And like I said to you on the show multiple times, this team won 101 games, and people were going to take that and assume it was going to be the norm. Okay. This team is trying to build on that. So that's the weird part. It's like they bring back people, and they maintained and basically reshuffled, if you will, certain players to try and maintain that 101 win core. And we all know that doing that is very hard to do, but they reshuffled to keep that so you can try to win 101 again. And the team and the fans want you to win that many games, but they're going to bitch and moan because they want a different player. It's like, I want, before we go to break, I'm going to ask you one thing. All right. I want you to put on your Mets Twitter hat. Okay. You're thinking as Mets Twitter as
that's the worst hat anyone's ever given me.
It's the worst freaking hat you can put on. I'm sorry, but I'm making you put it on.
It's a terrible gift. I don't want it.
I'm sorry. But I want to put it like this. If people are complaining about what this team has done to this point, okay, if they're complaining, my simple question is, what exactly did you want? Simple.
Right.
What did you want?
If I'm Mets Twitter, not John Sapanaro. If I'm Mets Twitter,
you are Mets Twitter,
and you're complaining.
Yes,
you wanted everything. You wanted Judge, Correa, DeGrom, Verlander, Senga, Diaz, Robertson, Chafin. You wanted to trade. This is the Mets Twitter logic. The Mets Twitter logic is MLB The Show logic, right? It's that Madden football logic.
And you turned trade whatchamacallits off. Denying the trade. You turned it off.
Unlimited trades. Like, there's no trade logic. You just turn it off. Yeah, you want Trey Turner to play second base. You want Correa to play third. Then you don't want to trade Escobar. You want him to be your DH. You want Vogelback to be your pinch hitter only. You want to get another you want Benintendi to go into the outfield with Judge and Nimmo. You want Canada to be your fourth outfielder. Like, that's what you want. Like, you can't have that. And Ibby, the funny part is I'm always the guy on this show and on Mets Twitter saying Steve Cohen could do all that. He could. I mean, he has the money. He could do it, right? Like, he's not going to. Yes. No one's going to do that, right? But like, when people were saying the Mets aren't going to get all these people, what did I say? I told you the Mets are going to have a $350 million payroll minimum. I said that in October. And people argued with me on Twitter. No, they're not. No one's ever done that. I said, no one's ever been Steve Cohen. Watch. It's going to happen. And he did. And then I was like, The Mets will go get whoever they want to go get. And then they almost, had it not been for this fluke, weird ankle metal plate situation, the Mets were going to sign. Like, just bear with me here, guys. The Mets were going to sign Carlos Correa to a deal that was roughly $30 million a year, just under, I know, right? The Mets were going to sign him to a deal that was almost $30 million a year, while also having the highest paid closer in the history of baseball, the two single most highest average annual value contracts in the history of baseball, albeit over the short term, in Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer. Oh, and a shortstop who's making $34 million a year, knowing full well they have to try to extend Pete Alonso, knowing full well they may give an extension to Jeff McNeil, knowing full well that they were going to try like hell to give Brandon Nimmo a probably above market deal to bring him back. And they were still going to give Carlos Correa $30 million a year. Still. They can do whatever they want. It's play money to him. It's monopoly money.
Yes.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I got a little heated there.
Throw it to the break. Let's throw it to the break.
I just before we throw it to the break, I do want to say what up to Darren.
Hey, Darren.
What up, lads? Ignore the complaints. 2023 is still going to be absolute scenes for our Mets. You got to believe. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to head into the break. If you're watching us for the first time, we know there's a lot of you. I'm sorry I yelled. Sometimes I get really heated. Maybe some of you like when I yell, probably because I yell a lot and you're still watching the show. So anyway, we're going to head into the break. The break is super brief. It is just an ad spot location that we need for the audio version of this show. 10 seconds, and we'll be right back. John Sapanaro, Matt Ibby Ibanez, Till Mets Do Us Part, live on Twitter, live on YouTube. See you in a second. Yo, just like that, we are back. Till Mets Do Us Part. John Sapanaro, Matt Ibby Ibanez, holding it down, live on Twitter, live on YouTube. Watching us live is the best way to interact with the show because it is absolute scenes, as Darren likes to say. There is so much going on in the comments. They come in real time. You can be a full-fledged participant in the show, which is exactly what we want. We want to hear from you, your comments, your questions, your concerns, your reviews, like from Shay, John fully embodied Mets Twitter there.
It's true, though.
That's what
it's
it is.
100% true.
Steph nailing it. Are you really yelling, or is it just because you're Italian? Yeah, I'm Italian. I'm from Brooklyn. This is my quiet voice. This is as low as it gets, ladies and gentlemen. No, but all that being said, if you're watching this, you're enjoying it, hit that like button. If you can't watch us live, don't worry. As soon as this is over, you can watch the entire thing on repeat over on our YouTube channel, or you can wait till tomorrow, listen to the audio version of this show on your way to school, work, working out, anything you're doing in the car, all that fun stuff, all courtesy of the Chop Sports Network. Ibby, I'm fired up. I don't know where you want to go next. I don't know where you want to take this conversation.
One thing I did want to say first is just a shout out real quick, because we were talking about Mets Twitter. I did want to give a quick shout out to 1986, 1986d.com. Obviously, we all know him from the classic picture of Steve Cohen and Alex Cohen when he's wearing the "You Gotta Believe in Uncle Steve" shirt. This is from his shop, so I want to just give a quick shout out to him, which I love. It's a play on the Nirvana "Smells Like Teen Spirit," smells like Queen Spirit. So if you want to check him out, I head over to the site. Fits great, feels great, love it. So shout out to him.
Perfect. Look, yeah, and he makes great stuff, by the way. So here's the thing. Let me see. Yeah, Nito's arbitration got bought out. Would like to see more of what's going on exactly with that. Stevie Mac,
1 million.
Did you guys talk about the Mets Hall of Fame inductees? We have not, but you know what? Ask and ye shall receive. We can talk about it if you want. We got them right there. The Mets Hall of Fame inductees, of course, the great Gary Cohen, Howie Rose, former guest of our show, Hojo, Howard Johnson, and then Al Leiter, Ibby. Like 4 great recipients of the honor, obviously in the broadcast booth and otherwise. Just couldn't be happier for all those guys. And special shout out to Hojo. Hojo, one of the nicest guys I've ever had the pleasure of meeting in person and or on this show. He was so gracious to give us a ton of his time on this show. You can go back and watch it on our YouTube channel when we interviewed him. And we hope to have him on again sometime, maybe during the season or leading up to the season. So he was obviously at the Queens Baseball Convention. I know a lot of you guys met him there, but he's just a super good dude, and he deserves it. He deserves to be acknowledged for everything he's given to this Mets team, you know, in the 80s on the championship team. And then when he came back and was, you know, one of the better hitting coaches that we've had in a long time. So, you know, it'd be shout out to Hojo, but your thoughts on the Mets Hall of Fame class here in 2023?
Impossible not to love it. I mean, like you said, like it's crazy to think that we're living in a time where we are so spoiled as Mets fans when it comes to the broadcast on television or the broadcast on radio, that we have Gary Cohen and Howie Rose. It's just we're very lucky to have what we have, and that's whether you're sitting on your couch or driving in your car to listen to our Mets games. And both of them so deserving of the honor. Everything you just said about Hojo is spot on, and Al Leiter is like, to me, like the quintessential Met when it comes to when I think of like the black jerseys back in the 2000s. Like I think of Al Leiter a lot, so it makes sense, even though he has his Yankee ties as well, but that's okay. I still think of him as a Met. But yeah, all four so deserving. I love that Steve Cohen continues to give the Mets past its fair shake, its due. When it comes to having a day at the stadium, having a game dedicated to them, having whatever it may be prior, after, whatever, it doesn't matter. The fact that they're getting the light and the roses that they all deserve makes all the sense in the world. Now, I'm just curious if Howie Rose is actually going to be the master of ceremonies for his own ceremony. Like, I'm very curious on that one.
I would like to see him do it, or like maybe, do some surprising thing where like, Gary steps in for Howie since they're both going in at the same time. I think that would be pretty cool. A lot of stuff in the comments for this, of course. Shay saying congrats to the, all the Hall of Fame inductees 2023, including Gary Cohen. Darren, that's amazing. Love it. Chris Ferrara, great inductees this year. Totally. Baseball and BBQ, Hojo, Mets Hall of Fame. Love it. Chris, love it. Also very true. Very, very true. Best TV and radio broadcast, hands down. I know we're spoiled. I know we're homers, but it's true. It is absolutely true.
The
best. If you have like, the MLB package, which I do, and I'm a bit of a baseball whore, honestly. Like I watch a lot of baseball with that package, and like I'll put on other broadcasts and I'm like, this is awful. There's not a lot of Bob Ukers and Vince Scully's and Harry Carey's, and hell, I'm gonna say it. I know a lot of people, don't like him, but it's funny now that he's been removed from it. Ibby, there's not even a lot of Joe Bucks out there. There is not. There's a lot of really terrible Hawk Harrelsons, and Michael Kay's got a good voice for announcing baseball, but oh god, Michael Kay.
The names escape me. The guy in Seattle, he's fantastic. His name's escaped me, but he's really good. I feel bad not knowing his name, but
it's all good. I mean, but even guys
really
like Matt Vasgersian, like I think he kind of made the mistake by taking like, the bigger like TV national deals, because Matt Vasgersian's got a great voice. He's easy to listen to. I think he could be one of those guys, but I think, because he's been associated with some bad broadcasts now, with ESPN stuff and everybody who works on Apple, and it's just like, they need to get their stuff righted. They need to fix it. And to that point, Chris saying, hopefully Wayne is replaced well and Keith resigns. Absolutely true.
Bring back Josh Lewin.
Jay Horwitz also getting an award. I saw. Listen, nobody deserves.
Jay deserves the world
more than Jay Horwitz. Jay getting a special achievement award. Jay deserves all the roses from Rael. He absolutely does. By the way, Jay has also been a guest on this show. It's before we did video, so if you want to listen to, Jay had some great insights on the way he handled Doc and Daryl during their early tenure here and what he thought he could have done better and differently. And he was also very candid to that same end about how he felt about how he and the Mets handled Matt Harvey through some of the stuff going on with Matt. It was unbelievably just
open.
So insightful and open,
very open,
and wonderful. And Jay's been a great friend to the show because Jay has helped us get some other great former Mets on this show. So shout out to Jay Horowitz, one of the people talk about how nice he is all the time. Truly one of the nicest people I've ever met. Just selfless, will do anything for you if he can. And there's not that many people like that. So absolutely love him. Ibby, with that said, I think we can talk about this. I think we should. I don't know how much time we're going to spend on it, but I do think it's important. And that is also the Mets coaching staff officially announced. So you've got Buck Showalter, Jeremy Barnes, Danny Barnes, Chidi Chavez, Jeremy Hefner, Joey Cora, Wayne Kirby, Eric Hinsky, and Glenn Sherlock. So some returning faces, some familiar faces. I think it's a solid staff. I like the Mets staff top to bottom. I like what they did with Eric Chavez. Is there anything, I'm not going to make too much about like assistant hitting coaches, assistants,
right.
I think the Mets, I think Jeremy Barnes is the hitting coach. Danny Barnes is the assistant hitting coach. And Eric Hinsky is like the guy who brings them water when they're tired. I'm not sure, but he also can talk to the hitters. I think I'm not sure, but whatever.
It's like you said, it starts at the top. I look at that and I'd say, who's our manager? Buck Showalter. Buck Showalter runs a tight ship. We saw it last year. We saw how he transformed the team. How he goes about putting his staff together, I have 1000% trust in. So, however they want to configure it, whoever is here, whoever left, whoever they brought in, I'm all for it because the guy who's still, steering the entire thing is still, in charge, knows what he's doing, not of the age where it's just like, what the hell is this guy doing here? This isn't a Grandpa Howe situation back in 2000s. So it's okay. We're all right. I'm very, very happy with how things are shaking out all around. So Buck's there. Buck's got his people. I'm good.
Yeah, I don't have more to say on it than that. I think we dove into the biggest part of it a couple weeks ago when they made the move with Eric Chavez to be,
Yes.
Kind of the learning / heir apparent to Buck, not retiring Buck at any point, but just knowing that, hey, here's a guy who can be groomed to be the next Mets manager, who certainly has a ton of great baseball acumen, and who better to learn from than a guy like Buck Showalter. So I think we kind of said everything that we wanted to say at that point. Stevie Mac, I'll jump back to that other comment. Buck Showalter, aka the most handsome manager in baseball. I know that Buck is happily married, but man, that Shakira news, that's big stuff for Buck Showalter. You know what I mean? Shoot your shot. Players play and shooters shoot, Buck. So, go for it. No, and then, this one, Jeff McNeil playing in the WBC. I think that's great. Maybe, I don't know. We've never really talked about this because we haven't had a WBC year. I think now's as good a time as any. WBC will be starting before we know it, coming up in just about a month and a half or so. So, how do you feel about the WBC? Do you like it? And fans in the comments too, like, you guys, let us know. Like, do you like the WBC? Do you not like it? Do you think it's at a weird time? Like, whatever your thoughts are on it, I think now's as good a time as any to talk about it and kind of preview it a little bit.
I would say that the timing is weird, but I understand it. It's like, put it this way. Would I rather watch the WBC or spring training games? I'd rather watch the WBC. Like, when you see all these different countries and all these players, like, you see the US and what their offense is like, oh, this looks great. But then you look at the Dominican Republic, you're like, holy shit, like, that is an incredible team, top to bottom, pitching and everything. And then you see Puerto Rico, you see all these other it's like, it's exciting. And we've talked about this I can't remember who the guest was, but we talked about it previously, where I was just like, look, you never see Juice during the regular season at Marlins Park, or whatever the hell they're calling it now. And like during
that
the
would be Lone Depot Park.
There you go. Lone Depot with a lowercase L, correct? So it looks like Ion, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, lowercase L, capital D for some reason. It's weird branding.
Either way. But when you look at that place, it's dead during the season. But when that place had the Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico in there, that place was like at another level in terms of excitement. It's like, holy shit, I wish we saw this more often. It's like, that's like bringing all the cultures together. It's conducive to that area as well. It's like, I love seeing baseball on that stage because it deserves that stage. And we don't usually get it because we know Rob Manfred is garbage. And it's just, that's a whole other conversation. But the point is,
he's a trash idiot. He is so dumb.
But the point is, I enjoy it from a watching standpoint, but I understand why people are against it, because, like, look, we're diehard Mets fans. You're diehard Yankee, Red Sox, like whatever it is, whoever you like, and you see a lot of your top end players there. What's the first thing you're always afraid of, especially during spring training? Don't get hurt. Like, that's always the main thing. It's like, don't get hurt. And I think it's more. I think it's more so from the. I know players can get tired from an everyday standpoint, but I also worry more so from the pitcher standpoint. And I don't think we're losing a lot in terms of the pitching for the Mets from the Mets side. I don't think we are. Not many. I don't know off the top of my head.
Maybe Senga will pitch for Japan, but
maybe
I don't
think there's many.
I think Scherzer and Verlander are looking at like, yo, we're 40.
No,
American pride. Sure. There's other pitchers that can hold that down. Go get Corbin Burns to pitch. He's going to be good. We're trying to gear up for the season. We got to stay in our routine, trying to win a World Series, cement our Hall of Fame legacy. And I like the World Baseball Classic, but it ain't helping the careers of Max Scherzer or Justin Verlander.
No, not at all.
They don't need it.
So it's like, it's obviously of people of a certain age where it makes more sense. But look, congrats to Jeff. I think it's an awesome honor. You got Pete there. I mean, and obviously talent is spread out through everything. I think Marte's out though. I think Marte pulled out because of the injury. I think I saw that.
Maybe it's a pretty fluid situation, I think, for a lot of these guys.
But either way, it's cool. It's fun. I understand why people are a little bit off in terms of the timing and how it kind of affects your fandom in a sense where it's like, oh yeah, I want to root for for the US or whoever you want to root for. And it's like, I also don't want, Pete Alonso to get hurt. I kind of want him to hit 40 homers for the Mets. Like the Mets, like people always assume, or people think on like the World Series, like the Major League Baseball season, like that's important. This is just some kind of pride thing for a trophy. It's like, I understand that, but at the same time, I'd much rather watch that than watch boring spring training games.
I agree with that. And everybody seems to agree for the most part in the comments so far. Steph saying WBC is at a weird time, but it's still baseball. Shay saying timing is weird, but may help some players get into the groove heading into the season. I think that's also fair. Play hard, don't play too hard, but you're kind of ramped up and ready to rock. Stevie Mack saying, I'm not a fan of the timing, but I guess it's way better to ramp up for the regular season than spring training. I think that's fair. James Dowling saying, as long as they stay healthy, I like it. Carlos with, I think, the funniest comment of all of them, as a Puerto Rican, that Dominican team looks terrorizing. Yeah, I don't know what the betting odds are, but I would say, the Dominican team is it's pretty fucking stacked. It's like a murderer's row.
You looked at the I saw the US's offense. I was like, damn, like this looks good. Then you're like, why is no one talking about the US? And it's like, ooh. Then you saw the pitching staff. You're like, ugh, it's not that great. And then you're like, you see the Dominican team. You're like, holy shit, this offense looks incredible. You're like, but the pitching, oh my god, the pitching looks incredible. Then you're like, the bull, holy shit, like they have everybody.
Like there's no such thing as a perfect team except for the 2023 World Baseball Classic Dominican team. They're about as perfect as you could possibly get. I think this is a great take from Steph. Also, I think it's a better version of the All-Star game. It's not a fan popularity contest. It's just some of the best players literally in the world representing. I think the one thing that's unfortunate, everybody has said the timing. I think the timing would be better if they played it after the World Series when winter ball was happening, because a lot of guys go and play winter ball. Hell, guys like Eduardo Escobar who don't need to play winter ball. Like, I'm not talking about Ronnie Mauricio. I'm talking about guys who are veterans. They go and play winter ball. So, I think that would be a better time. And I think the unfortunate reason why baseball doesn't put it there at the end of the season, one, they don't want to detract from the World Series, obviously. So you'd probably want to give like 3 weeks to a month buffer. And at that point, can pitchers really pitch? I think that's the baseball perspective. But the non-baseball perspective for me is unfortunate when you look at it like this, where you say, I think it's because football's on and they don't want to compete with football because they know they can't. But, in February, when all they're going up against is regular season hockey and basketball, which is meh, they haven't really gotten in, they're going to touch around the early parts of March Madness, but not really. March Madness doesn't get into full swing till a couple weeks later. So, I think at that point, it's the best time to get eyes on it, especially when you're like, we're playing one of the pools in Japan and the game is on at 5:30 in the morning Eastern time. It's kind of like watching the KBO. I remember when I talked to Todd Frazier about it, he was like, I was trying to watch the KBO during COVID because I wanted to watch Aaron Altier play because we were teammates with the Mets. But like, I don't know, I got up one morning and then I couldn't get up anymore. Which is so spot on. Trying to get Todd Frazier on this show, by the way. I think he would absolutely love. Talk about absolute scenes in the comments would be Jersey. Tom's Rivers' own Todd Frazier on this show would be absolute scenes. So.
Yes, well, I mean, I feel like we've been mentioning Todd as a potential guest for like the longest time. Eventually, hopefully this is the year we can finally get him on and have some fun. But that would be absolute scenes if we got him on here to just talk some baseball.
It would. So listen, this episode kind of started out with a bang, right? And now it's kind of like, but I think it's appropriate. I'm not saying we've like lost energy, but I think the stuff with Pham and Mets Twitter and, all of that stuff, the on the field as we gear up for pitchers and catchers and, as everybody's starting to get antsy for baseball because, if you're a fan of a certain local New York football team, they're not playing. And if you're a fan of the other one, they're still playing and that's cool. But, so I think when you start to look at that, I think it makes sense how we kind of caught fire right there at the beginning. And then we kind of, dove back a little bit and kind of mellowed out here at the second half towards the end. So is there anything we didn't get to that you would like to cover? Anything like that you want to hit on before we get out of here? Obviously, we'll be back next week. So we got plenty of time to discuss and dive into some of these things. I'm seeing a lot of this. I haven't been able to confirm the Mets extending Nimmo, or did they just agree in terms of arbitration and all that stuff?
No, I think what happened with Nito is they extended, or they bought out those 2 arbitration years. So it's essentially a 2-year deal, and he's getting, I want to say it was like 3.1 million. Like it's 1.7 and then 2.1 or something along those lines, that he's going to be here for the next 2 years. So they could just avoid the arbitration process. So he'll be here for the next 2 years. That's
there
all
we
that
go.
was.
Thank you for checking that. Stevie Mac confirms 2 years, 3.7 million. I guess that's a good way. We can end on that. Do want to give a shout out, by the way. We always mention them at the offset of every show. We mention it in the middle of every show. Chop Sports. We're always like, you guys can listen to this tomorrow, courtesy of Chop Sports, wherever you get your podcast. It's like, some of you might wonder, like, hey, we watch it live. Who's Chop Sports? Chop Sports, they do a great job. Sturch and Gooch, absolutely fantastic. They do their thing with daily sports shows, and it's absolutely incredible content. You should listen to their podcast too. You should check out their videos as well. But I saw that and I was like, we always mention them, and now we've got them in the comments. So thanks for jumping in there for a second. We appreciate that. But Ibby, just to round this episode out, I think that's good value for Nito. Your thoughts?
I think it's fine. I like it. He makes a lot of sense. He makes a lot of sense to have from a defensive standpoint. We all know that that the staff loves working with him, and I've been saying it for the longest time, and that's why we talked about Francisco Alvarez and trying to get better in terms of being understanding of the staff that you have. If a veteran staff like this team likes Tomas Nido, you do everything you can to have him locked up for the duration that you're going to have that veteran staff. So I don't think it's any coincidence that they said, hey, we're going to make sure we have him locked up for the next 2 years, because for sure you're going to have Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer locked in for the next 2 years. Obviously, there's opt-outs in there, but I don't think they're going anywhere. So you want to have those guys happy. Like that's the main. You want to have those guys happy. You want to have those guys comfortable, because the last thing you want to do when you have a 40-year-old pitcher is be uncomfortable. So Tomas Nido makes all the sense in the world. Welcome, Tomas.
Yeah, I agree with that. Chris with an underrated point here for sure. Need to keep Nito's tweets around too. Nito pretty good on Twitter. Funny stuff. He's always checking in. He's got that, what the hell, Bob, all that stuff. For me, I agree with you. I think you got to keep the continuity there between the pitching staff and Nito as they continue to grow. But Ibby, I also think it's important to give yourself some cost certainty. We saw what happened when the Mets were down bad at catcher, right? They go and they make what I thought at the time was actually a pretty good and fair deal for James McCann. It didn't work out, but obviously it's a lot of money relative to the production he gave you. And what you would then have to do is you have to eat the money to go out and trade him to then acquire a guy who you think could fill that role better in Omar Narvaez. And so now you're starting to change, you're paying a lot of money to just put a Band-Aid on the catcher situation so that you can properly develop your young number one prospect catcher. And I think signing Nito, I keep wanting to say Nimmo, signing Nito to a cost-controlled certainty deal for the next 2 years allows you to have that backup locked up and ready to go. And then you don't have to worry about it as you continue to groom and grow Francisco Alvarez. Want to check back in with Chop Sports Media. You guys undid all the goodwill right there, Sturch. Bad luck. Bad luck.
Get the hell out of here.
Checking in for sure. Go Yanks. He's done. He's done. We take back every good thing we've ever said. And it's a shame, guys, but the relationship is over. It's all done.
See ya.
Oh man, but no, I think it's a good move. It makes a ton of sense for the Mets. It's super cheap. But let's go out on this one, Ibby. Carlos Ramos. Ibby hasn't mentioned his best bud.
Carlos. Jesus Christ. I blocked him, so I don't see him anymore. I don't look at him. I don't bother with him. The only person that keeps me updated on him is Aunt Subway to Shea. Aunt Rivera is always sending me stuff. He's always DMing me like, oh, look at Joe. And I was like, Aunt, I don't want to see him anymore. He just keeps on sending me stuff constantly. He's like, I don't want to look at this bozo. Don't show me him. He's an idiot. He's a waste of space. He's a child. It's a man-child. Whatever. He sucks.
This is a great comment. Till Mets do us part. With Chop Sports. Hilarious. All right, Ibby, I think that's a good place to end the show this week. Great conversation. Guys, thank you so much in the chat. It was absolutely electric. We had, I think, at some point, I lost count, maybe 5 new commenters of names I hadn't
Yeah.
seen before. And look, we appreciate all the people that come back each and every single week, and we hope that the new folks join in that fold. But look, we appreciate it whether it's your first time, whether you watch every episode live, like some folks like Carlos Ramos and Shay and Patty over the last several weeks, and Rael, James Dowling. People are here every week and for 90%, if not 100% of the show. But we also appreciate the people that are like, hey, I'm at work. I checked in for the first 15 minutes. Love this stuff. See you guys later. I'll listen to the rest later. Like, we appreciate it no matter who it is. So thank you for continuing to help us grow. Hit the like button. There's a heart button too. I think there's both. Do both. I don't know how they work. Hit both of them. Don't hit the thumbs, just not the thumbs down one.
Don't hit the thumbs down. We don't want that. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe. I've been saying to random people, I've been filling John in as well. I want to get the giveaway off the ground at some point, maybe in the next week or so. So we do have a giveaway plan. We have another big one planned. I was talking with John about this. We're probably going to coincide that one around opening day. It's a big one. I'm very happy that I was able to land this item in an auction. So I'm excited to give that one away as well. We're going to do that more so closer to opening day, but we do have one to give away. So hopefully that can lead to some more subs, people seeing us, get some more eyes on us. We're growing. We love it. Just make sure, hit the sub button, hit the thumbs up, helps with the algorithm. We were a little bit down last week, but I'm just searching for consistency. As long as we keep those the consistency up when it comes to our subs and our watch hours, we are in a very, very good spot. No, we are not giving away a Correa Mets jersey. Do not start John on this. Well, if there's one thing I will say, did you see the back and forth, talking about Mets Twitter, did you see the back and forth between Jenny and Jack Ramsey? Did you see that?
No, because I blocked Jenny because he's he's just such a scrub hack.
I've been trying to get Jack on the show. I want to get him on. I think we would have a lot of fun, and I think you guys would vibe very well, especially over Jenny, because he was going at him, ripping him about a bunch of different stuff, and then Jenny blocked him. But then the other guy, like the guy who runs it, jumped into his comments afterwards. It was a whole back and forth, and I was just searching for you somewhere in there because I thought John will be all over this. Where is he? But I guess you didn't catch it. But yeah, Jack was really giving it to Jenny. I thought you'd be happy about that one.
Listen, anybody that takes Jenny Metz to task over some of the nonsense, I just can't. I can't with him. It was such a great exchange. Evidently, Steph saw it. Rael saying Jenny blue check.
Jenny blue check. That's right.
Yeah, Jenny blue check. You buy those check marks, man. All of a sudden, you can start giving away fraudulent jerseys and then not actually having to give them away, and then not actually doing a giveaway. So I can assure you that, ladies and gentlemen, I have seen the 2 giveaways. We're not going to reveal what they are that Ibby is alluding to. They're good. They're very, very good things. And they actually have to do, believe it or not, they have to do with your New York Mets. It's wild, but there are people who either play for or have played for at some point the New York Mets. So, listen, we're not going to give away a New York Mets Mike Trout jersey. We're not going to give away, a New York Mets, executive of the year, Brian Cashman plaque or whatever.
Right.
This guy is such a goddamn clown. I can't. Evidently, I love this. I haven't been able to tune into Wardy because of my schedule over the last couple of weeks, but don't mention anything about getting in Wardy's room. I guess are they buddies or something? But
they are tight. Like I love
Wardy. Wardy does great.
I love Wardy. Wardy's fantastic, and I'm not doing anything to rattle or shake the cage with him because he's fantastic. I have all the respect.
Former guest on the show as well.
Yeah, all the respect in the world for Tyler. But I know Jenny puts over his stuff a lot, and just to wrap it up when it comes to the whole Jenny thing, it doesn't bother me. It didn't bother me, but the fact that people in this chat, shout out to them, took it upon themselves when Jenny put out, I know you blocked them, but Jenny had been putting out, what are your favorite podcasts when it comes to Met content? And he kind of fumbled the ball when it came to not mentioning some of the really top end ones. Like he didn't mention Shea Station. He didn't mention We Gotta Believe. And people were like, well, how the hell do you run? And so he made sure to mention
Metcast Pod, though,
right,
which isn't even a fucking show.
So the fact that people took it upon themselves on both polls that he ran, even when he changed it, to mention us and tag us in it. Like, I knew he wasn't going to mention us because he knows that John goes after him. So I knew he wasn't going to mention us.
Okay.
But I am very thankful to the people, and even people that I never saw in the comments before, mentioning us as a show. Very appreciative of that. It shows, again, that we are growing. And I had said to John weeks ago, I said to him, like, if there's one thing I want to better the show at, is in terms of reach, is when people do those polls. I understand they're not the end all be all, but it does kind of give you the Twitter is a little bit deeper than you think it is. And when people mention you on those, it shows that you are getting further than you actually are. When I see those and we're never mentioned, I'm like, damn, we're missing a lot of people here. We got to get better at this. So when I see us being mentioned, I appreciate you, people in the chat. Thank you so much.
Rail saying we got you. Steph saying I corrected him twice.
I know you did, Steph, and I loved you for that.
he ain't never gonna mention us. He was like, he's never gonna recommend us. He texted me the other day, and I was like, I don't want his recommendation. I want his fear. I'm coming for you, man. Like, that is it. It is over, Genny. You start giving away stupid ass non-Mets jerseys, it's open season on you. Anyway, let's get the hell out of here. Thank you to everybody in the chat.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thumbs up, subscribe, notifications on, all those things. I'm John. That's Ibby. I did it right. That's Ibby. We will see you guys next week for more Till Mets Do Us Part, live on Twitter, live on YouTube. Thank you guys. Peace.